Hello everyone, a very good morning to all. So in continuation with our unit 2, that is periodic properties. In the last video we learned about the mnemonics for the periodic table for different elements belonging to different blocks, that is S block, P block and B block. So in this video we'll be starting with the periodic properties, variation of periodic properties, and in this video we'll be covering with atomic radii, atomic radii and ionic radii, ionization energy, and we'll also try to cover the electron affinity part. So let's get started. So these are the mnemonics for group 1 and group 2, that is S block. Then these are for P block. These we have already discussed in our previous class. So before jumping to the periodic properties, let us first discuss what is the cause of periodicity. As we have studied so far that according to the modern periodic table, the recurrence or gradual increase or gradual decrease of physical and chemical properties after certain regular intervals when the elements are arranged in the increasing order of their atomic numbers, this is called as periodicity. And this periodicity is happening after regular intervals, and those regular intervals are represented by magic numbers. Now the question arises, what is the cause of this periodicity? As we move down the group, in a same group, as we move down, say we are talking about the first group, if we move down from sodium to francium, what is happening is the principal shell number is changing, but the outer electronic configuration of the valence shell is same. So the similarity in the outer electronic configuration is the major cause of periodicity. That is why the properties are increasing or decreasing, or these are recurring after regular intervals due to the similar electronic configuration. So based upon this, the physical and chemical properties of elements which shows periodic variations with atomic numbers are called as periodic properties. Now these periodic properties are divided into two categories. Those properties which are directly related to the electronic configuration, and those which are indirectly related to the electronic configuration. So those which are directly related to the electronic configuration are the valency, atomic size, ionization energy, electron affinity, and electronegativity. Indirectly related properties are melting point, density, etc. So we'll be studying the variation of these properties along the period, along the groups, and one more relationship will be studied, that is diagonal relationship. I will not be discussing about the diagonal relationship at this point. We'll start directly with the properties which are directly related to the electronic configuration. So in today's video, we'll be starting with atomic size, then we'll be going through ionization energy and electron affinity in today's part. So starting with atomic radii, this is very important property and many properties depend upon atomic radii. Conventional definition of atomic radii is it generally means the distance from the center of the nucleus to the outermost shell of the electron. The distance from the, we can say this is the center of nucleus. So the distance from here to the outermost shell where the electrons are present, where its effect is felt, is called as, if atom is considered to be spherical. So this is the radius of the sphere. This distance is the radius of sphere. So based upon this, but actually the definition is not correct. This is the conventional definition. According to the probability picture which we have studied in our atomic structure chapter, there exist no boundaries for electrons, as electrons behave like waves, and atoms cannot be isolated, and atoms always exist in association with some other elements. They are always present as in bonded state with other elements. So how can we separate, how can we measure a property for single atom present? So also the properties of the atom changes based upon their atmosphere. That means if one atom is bonded to one of the elements and if it is bonded to the other element, so that means at there in both the cases the atmosphere is different. So in both the places the atomic radii is going to be different. So these are the drawbacks based upon these definitions. So what we should do is we can define atomic radii as the effective size or the distance of closest approach of one atom to another in a given bonding situation. That means we can define atomic radii in a particular bonding situation. So in reference to bonding situations, the atomic radii can be of the four types. First one is covalent radii, next is van der Waals radii, then we have ionic radii, and in the last we have metallic radii. So we'll be discussing all these four types of radii one by one. Let's get started with covalent radii. So covalent radii is measured as one half of the distance between the centers of two similar atoms bonded in a molecule that are bonded with a covalent bond. Say these are the two atoms of similar element. Say two hydrogen atoms are there. As we all know that covalent bond includes the overlap of atoms. So if these two hydrogens are bonded with each other through a covalent bond, then covalent radii is going to be one half of the distance between their centers. So this distance, say this point is A, this point is B, then AB by 2 is going to be their covalent radii. This is the first case where we are taking the distance between two similar atoms. So that's why we have taken two hydrogen atoms as an example. So from here, if this distance AB comes out to be 0.74 angstrom, then covalent radii, which is represented as HCr, is going to be half of 0.74, that is 0.37 angstrom. Now the second case for covalent radii is if the two atoms which are bonded together are heteronuclear. That means they belong to two different elements. Then what is going to be the covalent radii? Then in that case, covalent radii is measured by adding the covalent radii of both. So the distance between the two atoms at that place is measured by measuring the individual covalent radii in their diatomic molecules. Say we'll take diatomic molecule of H2 and Cl2 separately. Then from there we'll measure the covalent radii and then we'll get covalent radii for hydrogen and covalent radii for fluorine separately. From there we can get the bond length of HCl, and this relation is going to be valid for that case. That means the distance between RAB, the centers of the two nuclei, is equal to Ra plus Rb, where Ra and Rb are the covalent radii for the two covalently bonded atoms which are heteronuclear in nature. So if out of these anything is missing, say we want to find out this and these two are given, then using this relation we can find out the covalent bond length of the covalent bond. And also if bond length is given then and one of the radius is unknown, we can calculate the radii using this formula. Now coming to the third case, if the diatomic molecule, if the case is of those diatomic molecules which do not form single bonds, then how to calculate covalent radii for such molecules? Here we have the example of nitrogen, as two nitrogen atoms are bonded through triple bond and two oxygen atoms are bonded through double bond. So how to find covalent radii for nitrogen and oxygen? So for such cases, we'll use an indirect method. So for the data of covalent radii for such atoms, say we're talking about nitrogen, can be obtained from molecules where nitrogen is bonded to some other atom through single bond, and that other atom is also there exists single bond homoatomic molecules of homodiatomic molecule, or we can say the single bonded two similar atoms for that other atom is possible. So here we are taking the example of this. This is methylamine. Here C single bond N is present, and we know C single bond C is also known, as is the case of ethane. So first of all, we'll calculate C single bond C from ethane, and then we'll apply the covalent radii. We'll measure the bond length of Cn from this molecule, and from there we'll calculate the covalent radii of nitrogen. Using this equation, we can easily calculate this thing. So this is an indirect method how we can obtain covalent radii for those atoms which do not form single bonds with themselves. So the fourth case is whenever there is large difference between the electronegativity value of A and B, then what should be the case? Electronegativity, as we all know, is the tendency of a bonded atom to attract the shared pair of electrons towards itself. So if there is large difference in the electronegativity of two bonded atoms, electronegativity difference is not there when the two atoms which are bonded are homonuclear. But if the two bonded atoms are heteronuclear, then there must be some electronegativity difference, and if this electronegativity difference is large, then the formula is modified as this. The equation 1 which we have studied so far is RAB is equal to RA plus RB. Then that equation, in that equation we introduce another term which is Ra plus Rb minus mod of Xi A minus Xi B, where Xi A and Xi B are the electronegativity values of A and B, and the mod of the difference here means that this value is going to be positive. So here we are just concerned about the difference, not the sign, that not the thing that electronegativity of A is bigger or B is bigger. So anything can be there. A can be more electronegative or B can be more electronegative. This is written as conventional method that we take, if we take mod, then we'll get positive value from here only. So this is normal mathematical term which we have used here. Now we'll study, now we know that how to calculate the covalent radii for different types of situations. So there are 4 situations. Further we'll discuss the factors which affects the covalent radii. Now this thing we have already discussed, that if the multiple bonds are present, then the covalent radii is going to shrink. So let us take the example, like multiple bonds are present in O2 and N2. The corresponding radii are called as multiple bond radii, and whenever we talk about multiple bond radii, then multiple bond radii are always smaller in comparison to other radii, single bond radii we can say. So multiple bond radii is always smaller than the single bond radii. Here we have shown for the case of C single bond C, this is the covalent radii for C single bond C. This is the covalent radii obtained from C double bond C. It is 0.66, and if we talk about C triple bond C, then it is 0.6. So covalent radii decreases as the multiplicity bond is increasing. Same is the case with nitrogen. N single bond N is 0.70, N double bond N is 0.60. So this thing is required to be kept in mind when we are calculating about the covalent radii. When we are talking about the covalent radii, that if multiple bonds are there, then we'll have to consider the multiple bond radii, not the single bond radii of those atoms which we are, for which we want to calculate. Next factor which affects the covalent radii are the hybridization. If the atoms, the covalent radii is also dependent upon the hybridization of the concerned atom. Say here we are taking the example of carbon. Here carbon, for carbon we have taken 3 different molecules in which carbon is having 3 different hybridization states. In methane, first is methane, where carbon is sp3 hybridized. In ethene, carbon is sp2 hybridized, and ethylene, carbon is sp hybridized. So all are having C single bond H bond present, but covalent radii for carbon is not same in case of all the three molecules. Now why this is happening? This is happening as we move down from here. We can see that this is sp3 hybridized, this is sp2 hybridized, and this is sp hybridized. So we can see that S character is increasing as we move down. So with increase in S character, what is happening is electronegativity of carbon is increasing. And with increase in this electronegativity, the covalent radii decreases for carbon. So covalent radii, as we have measured for, as hydrogen is same in all the cases, so hydrogen covalent radii for hydrogen is going to be 6, that is 0.37. And here we can see that bond length is decreasing continuously as we move down. Hybridization is changing from sp3 to sp, and bond length is decreasing from 1.14 angstrom to 1.07 angstrom, and covalent radii for carbon is decreasing from 0.77 to 0.70 for C single bond H bond. So from here we can say that more the S character, more electronegative is the carbon, and thus small is its covalent radii. So this is all about covalent radii. Next we have metallic radii. So metallic bonding is way too much different from the covalent bonding. In case of covalent bonding, overlapping of two electron clouds is there. But in case of metallic bonding, as which exists in case of metals, there exists the bonding is based upon the electron C model. The bonding is like this. Here, say this is the C which is filled with electrons, and electrons are present all over the C. Say if this is whole thing is filled with electrons, and at some of the places at and metal cations are present at random present in between the electrons randomly, which are represented as small spheres. So here metal cations are surrounded by electrons from all sides. So we can say there is a sea of electrons, and metal ions which are called as kernels in case of metallic bonding, or we can say in case of metallic crystals, kernels are present in the sea as fishes. We can say if we talk about fishes are there in sea, then metal ions behave as fishes, and electron is water, salt water, which is present in sea. So this model is called electron sea model. So this is how metal ions are bonded in case of metallic crystals. So from there, metallic radius comes out to be can be taken as the internuclear distance between two adjacent metals in metallic lattice divided by 2. So we can take metallic radii as half of the internuclear distance between two adjacent atoms in metallic lattice. So from here we can see that there is no overlapping in case of metallic bonding. So definitely metallic radii is going to be bigger than covalent radii, as in case of covalent radii, covalent bond is formed always by the overlapping of electron clouds. But in case of metallic bonding, no overlapping is there. So definitely metallic radii is always bigger than covalent radii. Next we have van der Waals radii. Van der Waals radii are not considered as bonds. These are actually interactions. So these interactions are present in two non-bonded molecules or two non-bonded atoms which can exist as atoms. Say for noble gases, we consider it as they do not form any molecules, they do not form any compounds. So in different atoms of noble gases, there exist interactions which are called as van der Waals radius, which are called as van der Waals bonding. But these are actually not bonds, these are actually interactions. So one half of the internuclear distance between the adjacent atoms belonging to two nearest neighboring molecules of the same substance in the solid state is called as van der Waals radii. So this is the one half of the internuclear distance present in two adjacent molecules present in solid state, which are not bonded with each other. So these are very weak interactions in comparison to the covalent or the metallic bond. Also from here, as these are weak interactions, and so van der Waals radius is going to be very much larger in comparison to metallic radius, which is greater than covalent radius. So this is the decreasing order of radii of different types. So this is all about atomic radii. So these interactions present in atoms of noble gases and also in between any two nonpolar molecules are having van der Waals interactions in between them. So above three types of radii which we have discussed so far, that is van der Waals radii, metallic radii and covalent radii. They fall under the category of atomic radii depending upon the type of bonding present in between the atoms. So now we'll be discussing the variation of atomic radii along the period. So we are taking here the second period. Second period I can show in the periodic table is this. This is the second period for which is having total of 8 elements, which starts with lithium and ends with neon. Lithium, beryllium, boron, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine and neon. Neon is a noble gas. So here Z effective for these atoms have been written. Z effective is effective nuclear charge which have been calculated using Slater's rules for these atoms. So also this Z represents the atomic number. Lithium is having atomic number of 3, 4, 5 for boron and then 9 for fluorine. Here neon has not been written. Here the atomic radii for these atoms has been found to decrease as we move along the second period. As there are 8 elements in the second period, here we have written the first 7 elements. The last element is neon, which is a noble gas. Here we can see that atomic radii decreases from lithium to fluorine. So what could be the reason for this decrease? This decrease is due to, as we can see here, that Z effective is increasing as we move from lithium to fluorine. So nuclear pull is increasing and electrons are getting added to the same shell, as here the filling of second shell takes place in the second period. So the electrons are getting entered to the same shell, but nuclear pull is increasing as we move from left to right. So nuclear pull on the same shell is increasing and electrons are getting added to the same shell. So this results in the increasing number of electrons which are adding to the same shell is not able to neutralize the effect of increasing atomic charge, or we can say increasing nuclear pull. So based upon this, the size decreases as we move along the period in the second period. Next we can see about the variation in the group. Here we have taken the example of first group, that is which starts from, hydrogen is not written here. Here this is lithium to francium. Here the outer electronic configuration for all the elements has been written, and this is the value of Z effective. Here we can see that as we move down the group, what is happening is there is introduction of new shell. The shell number is increasing as we move down the group. So there is introduction of new shell and nuclear charge is also increasing. So also we have calculated the value of Z effective. These are the atomic radii, and atomic radii is increasing as we move down the group. So why atomic radii is increasing? This is due to the introduction of new shell is there. Although there is increase in nuclear charge, but increase in nuclear charge is not sufficient to neutralize the increasing size due to introduction of new shell. So that is why atomic radii increases as we move down the group. Next we have fourth type of radii, that is ionic radius. For ionic radius is the radius of ions. Ions are of two types, cations and anions. Cations are formed from the atoms with the loss of electrons, and anions are formed by the gain of electron into the valence shell. So, ionic radii can be defined as the effective distance of the ion up to which it has an influence in the ionic bond. As we all know that ions form ionic bonds, so this distance is the effective distance from the nucleus, that is from the center of the ion up to which it has an influence in the ionic bond. Now the question arises, how do we measure ionic radii? So from spectral studies, if ions are considered as spheres, internuclear distance between two ions in the ionic crystal can be known. So we can know the internuclear distance between two bonded ions. Say this is a molecule of NaCl. As here, sodium ion and chloride ions are bonded, and the bond length, that is ionic bond length, is measured from the spectral studies. This came out to be 2.76 angstrom. From here, we know that this is the sum of the ionic radii of sodium and ionic radii of chlorine, but we cannot know this individually. These two values cannot be known using spectral studies individually. So, for this thing, Pauling, who was a scientist, came forward with a solution for knowing the ionic radii individually. For this, he selected four ionic compounds of isoelectronic cations and anions. So he chose four ionic compounds. These are all ionic compounds where cation and anion were isoelectronic. Here, sodium and chlorine are having 10 electrons. Here, potassium and chlorine are having 18 electrons each. So these two species present in the ionic compound, two ions, that is cations and anion, are isoelectronic as they are having same number of electrons. And further he observed that radius of isoelectronic ions is inversely proportional to the Z effective. Z effective is given by nuclear charge minus screening constant. So he observed that, he gave that this radius of isoelectronic ions is inversely proportional to Z effective. From here, we can write it as radius is equals to some constant divided by Z minus S, where C is some constant which is same for both the species, that is both the isoelectronic species. Say, let us try to calculate for NaF, sodium fluoride, for which are having 10 electron each, as sodium, which with atomic number 11, has lost 1 electron, and it has formed cation, and chlorine has gained 1 electron, and they are both at 10 electron each, and they are having ionic bond in between them. So for from spectral studies, from experimentally, we have calculated the inter-ionic distance. The bond length of this ionic bond is 2.31 angstrom. So from here, we can write it as RNA positive is equal to C by 6.85, where 6.85 is Z effective for sodium and 4.85 is Z effective for chlorine. Here we can see that as number of protons are different in case of screening constant is going to be same for both of them because they are isoelectronic, but their atomic number, that is nuclear charge, overall nuclear charge, was different. Sodium was having nuclear charge of 11 and chlorine is having nuclear charge of 9. So that is why value of Z effective has come out to be different. C is same for both. So from here we can calculate the value of C. C came out to be 6.56. So based upon the value of C, now we can calculate, putting the value of C in both these equations, we can calculate the value of radius of sodium ion and radius of chloride ion. So here, from here, the radius came out to be 0.96 angstrom, and for chlorine, chloride ion, it came out to be 1.33 angstrom. Now, if we want to compare, so using this method, we can calculate the radius of cation and anion, and using this method, a lot of ionic radii have been calculated, and now these values are well known and well acceptable based upon the method given by Pauling, because Pauling calculated this thing for different ionic compounds and they have been tabulated and widely acceptable. So from here we can see that radius of, as these both are isoelectronic species, and radius of cation is smaller in comparison to radius of anion, or we can say atomic radii is for neon is lies in between both. So from here we can conclude that radius of cation is always smaller than that of the atom, and that of anion is always bigger than that of the atom. So if we are asked about the comparison of the ionic radii of these three species, then this becomes the order that H positive is smaller in comparison to H, that is hydrogen atom, which is further smaller in comparison to hydride ion. Same is the case with fluorine. F positive is smaller than fluorine atom, and which is further smaller than fluoride ion. Also, more the charge on cation, smaller is its size. More the charge of cation, say we are comparing Fe2 positive and Fe3 positive. Here 3 positive is bigger than 2 positive. That means radius of Fe2 positive is going to be greater than Fe3 positive, and that this means that more the positive charge on cation, smaller is the size, and more the negative charge, bigger is the size. So from here this has become the rule that anion is always bigger in size in comparison to atom, and cation is smaller, and more the charge on cation, smaller is the cation, and more the charge on anion, bigger is the anion. So radius of cation is always smaller than that of atom, and that of anion is always bigger. So this is a rule to be memorized to attempt the questions based upon the ionic radii. Why this is happening? This is happening because, as in case of cation, after removal of electron, Z effective on each electron is increasing, and in case of anion, after the addition of electron, Z effective on each electron is decreasing. So when Z effective decreases, size increases, and when Z effective increases, size decreases. Now we'll study the variation of ionic. Actually, the variation of ionic radii is same as that of atomic radii along the period as well as along the group until charge acquired by the ion, until we are comparing the similar charged cations and anions. So the variation is going to be same as that of the ionic radii. Now we'll try to compare the ionic radii of isoelectronic species. So for isoelectronic species, these are all isoelectronic species. Nitrogen has gained 3 electrons and has occupied total of 10 electrons. Then oxygen has atomic number of 8. So 2 electrons have been gained. Fluorine has gained 1 electron, and neon is already having 10 electrons. Sodium has lost 1 electron. Magnesium has lost 2 electrons. Aluminium has lost 3 electrons. So from here we can see that nuclear charge is increasing as we move from nitride ion to aluminium 3 positive. Here we can see that nuclear charge is increasing. So size decreases as we move along this series from N3 negative to Al3 positive for isoelectronic species. Now we'll discuss the important atomic radii exceptions which are present in periodic table and out of which the questions are generally asked even in your competitive examinations. The competitive examinations of NEET and JEE are, in those examinations, generally these questions are asked from the periodic properties chapter. So in case of first period, as we all know that as we move from, this is your periodic table. So this is your first period which is having 2 elements, that is hydrogen and helium. So in case of first period, what is happening is, as we have studied so far is as we move along the period, the size decreases due to increase in nuclear charge and electrons are getting added to the same shell. But there is large difference in case of helium and hydrogen. Helium is way more bigger in size than hydrogen. So why is it so? This is because atomic radius actually increases as helium does not form any type of bonding. The atomic radii which is associated with helium is van der Waals radius. And van der Waals radii is always bigger than the covalent radii, whatever be the case. So this is why helium is bigger in size than hydrogen. Same is the case with second period, that as we move from lithium to fluorine in second period, Z effective is increasing, but for neon, it increases, the atomic radii is increasing, although Z effective is increasing, but atomic radii is increasing because this atomic radii is van der Waals radii, not covalent radii. And van der Waals radii is always bigger than covalent radii. This is because this neon doesn't form any covalent bond or ionic bond or metallic bonding. This, in case of neon, just van der Waals bonding exists. Further, there are two cases for the atomic radii of the D block series and the F block series. These cases will be discussing in the next video. So that is it for this video. I hope you have found this the variation of atomic radii interesting, and that is it for this video. So have a good day and have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much.